Alrighty then. We're live.
I'm Blast Master. Hello, fancy seeing you here.
Right, okay. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Yeah, I'm sure you can hear me. Hello, Blaster Master. Let's just further establish the fact that Blaster Master is here. Hola. Doon doodle doon doon doon. Halo. No, it's hola. There we go. Hola. Doon doodle doon doon doon. All right, so it's super late for me. But there's not much going on tomorrow, and I just finished watching the Olympic opening, so I just thought, you know what, let's just chat, because that's what I like to do in my spare time. How are you, Blaster Master? I think everything's going quite well as far as I'm aware. We're going to be discussing several topics, stuff about what I've seen, where I've been, and things that are obscene. Okay, so let's see. Just making sure everything's a-okay and working. Yep. Yeah, making sure everything's working. Now I'm Patrick Warburton. Okay, so as described in the description of the video, we're going to be talking about the Olympic opening ceremony, mental well-being, state of Ubisoft, upcoming movies, as well as prior thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine, because that movie seems to be causing quite the resurgence, for lack of a better term, as well as other stuff that's happening, and hopefully we're all going to have some fun here. So let's talk about the Olympic opening ceremony. Before we do so, why do I even bother wearing a jumper in the middle of summer? It's because I shower and then I use that to cozy up just to get rid of all the wetness, and then stuff like that happens, you know. This is a charity hoodie, by the way. This says, my name's Doddy Foundation. It's to help with debilitating illness. It's a good sporty, comfy hoodie as well. Maybe I could wear it like this throughout the rest of the live stream. That way you wouldn't have to worry about seeing this mug ever again. Yes. So regarding the opening ceremony of the Olympics. Now, you probably won't see many people talk about the Olympics like on YouTube in this kind of social space, but I've liked the Olympics for a long time, honestly. I'm quite a fan of the Olympics. I just love the concept of all these people around the world uniting in harmony to compete in these fun games and sports, to push each other to beyond their limits, to see what they're physically capable of. It's spectacular, fun stuff, you know? I'm going to be blatantly honest. People get fanatic about like the football, or as you Americans call it, soccer. Again, I have no idea why soccer and football are named differently. And I especially question the fact that American football is called American football when in that sport you use your hands more so than your feet in American football. Reminds me of this one joke from Flushed Away. Pick up the ball! Oh, these people just don't know how to play football! Anyway, I mean, I've loved it. I've loved that concept, just seeing all these different events, the athletics, the gymnastics, the sheer talent that goes into the summer sports and the winter sports, the sheer dedication, like how people persevere, even with the occasional slip up. Like it's an honor to even be nominated to, or even to just take part. Like even for the people who don't quite keep up with the people who are in third, second, first, it must be an honor to at least even take part. Like think about that. And of course, as indicated in the recent short I made, I and several others have grown up playing Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Really like those games. Like, were they like ever the top quality video games you could ever get? Not really, but they're probably one of the better spin-off games in regards to Mario and Sonic, respectively. And it's really cool to see Mario and Sonic team up together in the Olympic Games. So it's a really cool combination. It's a really fun crossover party game that the whole family can enjoy. I mean, I've definitely enjoyed it. I've got fond memories of like the 2008 Beijing Olympics for the DS and the Wii. Like pretty much destroyed, scratching the touch screen with like those kind of events, and getting really tired when doing the swimming events on the Wii version, especially. I think the best one they've made so far is the Winter Olympic Games for the Nintendo Wii, and for the Nintendo DS version of that game, they had an entire campaign mode, which was really fun to do. And London Olympics, well, near my home turf, not quite the home turf, but near enough. London Olympics was also quite a fun one. I think there was a story mode in the 3DS of that game. Then there was like the Rio Olympics for like the Wii U, and then recently there was the Tokyo Olympics for Nintendo Switch. They had to put that in 2019 due to the pandemic, stuff like that. But they made other additions to those games, like adding in other characters exclusive to specific events, which suits their personalities and other such fun stuff. I got lots of fond memories of that. But I'm going off track. But basically, long story short, I love the Olympics, right? Just the sheer dedication that and its cultural meaning. So I recently just finished watching the Paris opening Olympics. I gotta say, even though it's had its certainly had its highlights, it was fairly underwhelming compared to other Olympic ceremonies that came before. I mean, I suppose if you showed someone who had never seen an opening ceremony of any kind before, they'd probably say, "Oh, that was impressive," probably, and then they'd probably get bored during like a whole dance sequence, which is kind of a shame because you should not really be bored with dancing. But if you were to show that person other opening ceremonies that came before, like the entire London opening and closing ceremony, well not all the closing ceremony, but the opening ceremony of the London Olympics, as well as the opening ceremony of the Beijing Olympics, then they're going to say, well, the Paris one was kind of underwhelming compared to those ones. I mean, I'll describe it to you, because the Paris, it did have its highlights, to be fair. It's just that there's a lot of lesser quality stuff just getting in the way overall. Just making sure that it's still working. So I'll describe what happened. So most of the Paris opening ceremony takes part in the River Seine, which is named after some kind of Roman goddess of some kind, if I'm not mistaken. So during this entire ceremony, I mean, you got some impressive set pieces that no doubt have some cultural significance to France and Paris. Talking about some important figures, historical events, cultural highlights. There were some particular cultural highlights that I really enjoyed. Like when it opened up, there was this man in a fencing mask, and I think that's kind of thematically relevant because fencing is associated with France, because whenever you play fencing, the swords are the kind of swords that the French musketeers would have used. And the terms they use during the fencing sport is en garde, allez, tout suite, so on and so forth. I made up the tout suite part, but you get the idea. The French terms associated with that kind of thing. You'll have like other countries contribute like their sports to it, like no doubt like Greeks would have some influence on like the wrestling, and the Americans would have had some or the South Americans would have had some influence on the skating and stuff like that. So anyway, you have this person in a fencing mask and sort of fancy outfit, carrying the torch around from place to place. One of the first places he visited was at the theater, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that he was going through the midst of a musical. And what musical would that be? None other than Les Miserables. And they were all singing Do You Hear the People Sing in French, their national language. And I thought, brilliant, brilliant. That's brilliantly culturally relevant to France, because Les Miserables is probably one of the greatest French stories ever made, because it's made by one of the greatest French authors, Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo wrote two very significant contributions to fiction, namely Les Miserables and The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Victor Hugo had many things to say about the circumstances of his time, and he had some critiques to say, but he still maintained a sense of hope through it all. And that's definitely seen in the like Les Miserables, this story where in the midst of absolute tragedy, you get this hope that people will find their well-being again, and that things are gonna be all right. It's one of the few stories that I've seen the musical version that's actually moved me to tears. Like I'm a pretty hard person to get cry because I'm so familiarized with a lot of story beats, but Les Miserables is one of those few stories that actually successfully made me cry. So kudos to that. So I'm very pleased that Les Mis got some attention, and that more people will be getting tickets for like the theatrical version of Les Miserables. Then you had like this rock display on like the sides of the building, and some decapitated lady. Was that like a reference to the guillotines? There was a lot of references to the French Revolution, which was a very brutal period in history. To be honest, I understand the French Revolution was like very significant to Paris, France, understandably so, and I acknowledge that certain countries will have to acknowledge like brutal events as part of their cultural identity, for better or for worse. I get that, but at the same time, a part of me thinks they might be paying a bit too much attention to the French Revolution. Do you think there's other time periods like could have paid attention to? Like I know like the London opening ceremony like focused primarily on like the Industrial Revolution for a good portion of it, but it then like it moved on eventually to other time periods, like more contemporary time periods, or that one scene of James Bond jumping out the helicopter with the Queen. I love that. I still love that to this day. And where was? Oh yeah. So there's rock bands playing. They're on these high platforms in the building, and I'm glad they're wearing the safety harnesses. Otherwise, they'd fall right off. So that's fairly brave of them to do that. And then you had like all these people in these like doing these gymnastic stuff, like these women who are like bouncing on these like big pole thing. That like, okay, how would I describe it? I wish I had some kind of stick thing I could demonstrate with. Do I have something plastic and bendy I could use to demonstrate? I guess. I guess this will do, right? So like, there was a bunch of these like big pole things, and there was just these ladies, just standing on top of these things, just standing there like straight pole things, and they were just standing on the top. I was like, how on earth did they get up there? Okay, this should be interesting. And there was this one guy just chilling out on a tightrope in the midst of the rain. Yeah, they all did this in the midst of all that rain. Like, kudos, man, kudos. And so, as the party goes on, like, this woman starts swinging back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on these poles. That's like doing dancing, and people in these exotic colored robes like start dancing, prancing about. And at one point, I kid you not, these like several people like give each other like a 3-stack piggyback. And then the top lady like grabs onto the guy, like harnessed, of course, and then she does a bit of dancing, and just doing that on the tightrope, and it's pretty impressive stuff. Although there was a strange fascination with some other people doing something fairly questionable, but I don't think I should mention that because that's probably a bit too sensitive. There was emphasis on the like. Oh yeah. I liked the homage to French cinema. There was a sequence where the guy in the fencing mask goes out there and goes into a parachute, and he goes through like this animated sequence of celebrating like French cinema, like with the moon with its the rocket ship stuck like jammed into its eye, paying homage to Georges Méliès, if I got the name correctly. Georges Méliès was fundamental to filmmaking. Georges Méliès was one of the first official filmmakers. He had very imaginative stuff, and he's been very influential. I think I might have probably missed the first few minutes of that part. I hope they referenced Amelie. I hope they did, because that's one of my favorite films ever made, and that's a French film. There's a few others, and then all of a sudden, you just see this little yellow spy thingy coming out from the River Seine, and then the camera goes underneath, and we get this animated sequence of CGI submarine, and inside are the Despicable Me minions. I was pleasantly surprised, and the part of me thought, oh yeah, of course. Like the moment I saw the minions, I thought, of course, because the minions were invented by Illumination Studios, and Illumination Studios is from France. Of course the minions are here. So I know a lot of people find like the minions annoying, but I mean, the minions can be annoying if they are on screen for far too long. That's why I didn't actually like the Minions spin-off movie. That movie really irritated me, whereas I think the other Despicable Me movies found the right balance of having the more relatable adult-oriented character being Gru, and then the childish humor of like the Minions. It was a fine balance, like the Despicable Me movie. I think with the Minions movie by itself, it was too much of a good thing in that case. But with the submarine sequence, I was laughing. Like I found that whole submarine sequence with like the minions pretty funny. And what else happened? Oh yeah, there's a scene where like the submarine explodes, and then the minions are just still fooling about, and they happen to have stolen the Mona Lisa. And I like their dedication to a joke where the Mona Lisa just floats up within the animated sequence, but then once it cuts back to the ceremony, you just see the Mona Lisa painting just floating there on the River Seine. Like, I've got to love that kind of dedication to a joke. That's great. That's fantastic stuff. What else did I like about the ceremony? Well, admittedly, from there on, there's a few other bits that I didn't really like that much. And you got to keep in mind, this is meant to be a big, grand Olympic ceremony opening. But when you compare this to like the Beijing opening and the London opening, oh, good grief, it pales in comparison. So what happens next is that there's just all these people in all these robes and stuff like that. It's like they're putting on this big fashion show, and they go dancing and prancing about for like an hour. I mean, thankfully, like there's like breaks just seeing all these different countries just smiling and waving and having the flags. But you'd have the people on these fashion shows, they just keep dancing, and they just think, okay, I don't really care about the fashion show. I just want to see some entertainment stuff and some impressive sports things. What does this fashion show have anything to do with sports or anything to do with the kind of cultural progress that leads to the discipline necessary to take part in these sports? I mean, anyone could have this kind of elaborate fashion show these days. What makes you so different? So yeah, the fashion show gets kind of boring if you ask me. And oh, good grief! And just when things were getting interesting with like this music show in the raft, they sing the song. Yeah, the dumbest song I've ever known about. They sing John Lennon's Imagine again. I hate that song. That song sucks. Like, I'll tell you why that specific song sucks. It's because it's brain dead. There's no thought put into the song. It's like John Lennon just like smoked weed and then just had this sort of musing to himself and then just scribbled a song for like 1 hour, didn't really ask for much feedback, and then just made a song out of it. Like, I suppose even the music video would have seemed too much such. Like, I'm imagining, for lack of a better term, that John Lennon like got high on weed as he was moving to a new rich house with his like wife and girlfriend Yoko Ono. If I've got the name correctly, forgive me if I've got the name wrong. And then he thought, you know what? I'm so full of weed, man. I want to make a song. And the song has so many lyrics that completely contradicts itself. Like, he sings, imagine no possessions. No possessions, huh? No possessions for a man who... Love you, Scott. Love you, Blaster Master. Love you. Mwah, 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 mwah. Anyway, with John Lennon's Imagine, it's such a stupid song. I just don't understand why they would use this specific song for the Olympics. Like you could have come up with so many other songs, like Whitney Houston's One Moment in Time is so much better. Thank you, Blaster Master. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to kiss you on the cheeks like the French people do. Imagine is an abomination of a song, and I'm so glad that someone agrees with me on this. I hate that song with a passion. It's so stupid. I was just explaining the lyrics fit the profile. Yeah. Religion as an example. Yeah. So that's an interesting comment because this is a hot take, but I am convinced that everyone is religious, even the secular people, even the people who would consider themselves like atheists. Like, they are religious too, because atheists, like other religious people, they have their set of values. They preach about what those virtues and values are. Thank you. And they have, like any other religious person, like any other religion, mind you, they have their so-called account on origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. Those four factors are what usually defines a religion: origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. Many either worship internally or externally. Yes. And now people might object to say, oh, you're wrong. You have to believe in some kind of god or gods in order to be religious. Wrong. Buddhist. There are Buddhists who don't believe in a god, and yet they have a religion. You don't need to believe in like some kind of a traditional deity in order to have a religion. Like some people think like the universe is a god. And something you need to consider is that everyone's religious. It's a mistake to say that you're not, because if you're not worshiping a deity, then you could be worshiping your new car, your beautiful looks, your money, your fame. You could be worshiping yourself. Everybody worships something. Everybody puts something, anything, as the pinnacle of their life that they adhere to and follow. Indeed, I think it comes from how men give themselves to an idea. Yeah. Like, you can't avoid being religious. I'm sorry. That's just the way we're ingrained to be. Like, everyone is religious about something. So that's a fundamental error with John Lennon's like Imagine. He then says, imagine no possessions. No possessions for a man who has a big house, a piano to play the song with, presumably sound equipment for, those possessions, glasses, That's a possession. So he could see a wedding ring and a wife, and she belongs to him and he belongs to her. That's technically property. And you have albums and money. That's that. Those are possessions. You have. If you're gonna go with the no possessions, go live like the Greek philosopher. What was his name again? I've forgotten the name of that one Greek philosopher who literally had no clothes and lived in a barrel. Diogenes, thank you. Yes, yes. If you really wanted no possessions, you should not have that big house and the piano. You should be singing the song to yourself, naked in a barrel. That's the only way you can be consistent with that kind of song. You have to be a Diogenes thinking person. Good thing Mark had good. Oh, wait. Okay. Blaster Master. Time out. I think that's going a bit too far there. Right. Diogenes smashed his bowl when he realized he could have less. Yeah. I remember there was a horrible history sketch. Oh, lol, joking. Just got my eye on you. I remember there was this BBC show called Horrible Histories where there was a sketch about Diogenes. It's like, just put him in the barrel. I don't have any properties. And he starts drinking from water. And then the Greek person goes, hey, wait, a bowl of water. That's something. Man's got to drink from something. Oh, look at that child there. He's not using a bowl. He's using his hands to make the drink. Oh, yeah, that was an oversight. There's also this, in John Lennon's song Imagine, there's also this concept of no countries, no cultures. It's a very romanticized idea of, we could all be one. But if you're studying the lyrics of that song consistently, it's pretty much communism. And if you're actually familiar with the history of communism, especially if you're familiar with the names Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, and Lenin, those four individuals had caused so much bloodshed in the name of communism, which in turn originated from Marxism, which a lot of people seem to be adhering to for some reason. And communism in the 20th century has caused more bloodshed than any religion in the previous 19 centuries combined. And you're trying to preach communism as a good, peaceful thing. What is wrong with you? Magical thinking to the extreme. Have you seen the What If Altist's video on a theory he was reading on? I'm familiar with What If Altist, yes. I think some of my viewers will be very familiar with his content. He makes very thought-provoking stuff in regards to geopolitical and historical analysis. So what theory would that be? It might come back to me if you mention it. Supposedly there is a pyramid of... Oh, yeah. This was his recent video. Pyramid of Politics based on the theory he has read. Right. I admit, I only saw the first few minutes of that. I gotta admit. Feel free to describe the rest. Pardon me. Had a very tasty dinner tonight. Pyramid theory, anarchy, monarchy, and theocracy, I think. Right. So, other problems with the John Lennon song, the anarchy, freedom, and theocracy, yeah, actually is. Oh, okay, right. John Lennon sings, nothing to live or die for. Nothing to live or die for. There are contradictions in that. If there's nothing to live or die for, then why are you living to make the song in the first place? So that's already a contradiction in itself. Secondly, if there's nothing to live or die for, then there's no point to anything. Everything is meaningless, including your attempts to make the world one, including anyone's purpose to live for. Such quite scary and very deeply tragic. And I look around at people and just think, nobody can live consistently with nihilism. If you want to live consistently as a nihilist, you pretty much have to lie to yourself in order to keep on going. And I got a friend of mine named Malika Wright, who very recently, that's WEF of whoever I heard. What if Klaus Schwab is just Lenin, but he faked his death? Imagine that. Imagine Klaus was Lenin. Imagine if he faked his death. Anyway, I have a friend of mine, Malika Ganji. I'll provide a link to her video in her live stream, which I would encourage you to watch if you get the chance later on. you like that, didn't you? In the link that I've provided, my friend Malika Ganji talked about topic of incels, about how you should live a single life before considering going into a romantic relationship. And one of the things she brought up is that incels tend to suffer from nihilism. And nihilism doesn't help anybody at all. It's very it's a self-destructing worldview, and you just think nihilism thinks like everything's meaningless and there's no point to anything or everything. Like I have known someone who lived by this hypothesis, and he was miserable because of that. Like you can't live consistently as a nihilist. That's why if there's a worldview and it's rooted in any way whatsoever to do with nihilism, I cannot for the life of me take it seriously. If you're going to take nihilism to its logical conclusion, you'd have to eventually conclude Nietzscheanism. And Nietzsche acknowledged the horrors of nihilism. Like, I'm not sure what, but incels are essentially disposable due to their position in society. So they self-perceive. I think the nihilism is a consequence rather than the starting point. Okay. Maybe you could comment that in her video. Maybe she'd get a conversation started with you. Although, mind you, she's usually so busy, she hardly has the time to talk to much people. But yeah, I mean, whether it's a starting point or symptom, so I'm interested in the conversation, of course. Yeah. But either way, like, nihilism doesn't help anybody. It just makes things like worse. Like whenever people like get mad at me for something, I just have to ask, where's your basis for your moral stances? Because if your moral stance is based on something that ultimately has no meaning, why are you defending it? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So for all these reasons that I've just described, and me and Blaster Master were just discussing, man, bro, you need to read for a moral stance. Yeah, pretty much. So for all these reasons, like, the Olympics really need a different song as the national anthem. I've noticed that since the closing Olympic ceremony of like London, they kept singing that stupid song like throughout the years, and it's just why? It's so stupid. Hard Sell for the general public. War Pigs is a good song. War Pigs. I'll need to check that out. Well, one song that I will always affiliate with the Olympics would be Whitney Houston's One Moment in Time. Like, I even used that song as the background music for the recent short I did with Maren Solnik at the Olympic Games. If you ask me, I think that song, One Moment in Time, should be the national anthem of the Olympic Games. It perfectly signifies people coming together to push each other beyond their limits, as well as the emphasis on getting to that moment where it's so glorious and you finally achieved that peak of making yourself a good symbol for your country. And I think the grandiosity of the music and her vocals really captures that perfectly. Give me one moment in time where I'm more than I thought I could be. Well, to be clear, I was making a joke for whoever designed that for the Olympics. It's just the same people as the warmongers. And in that one moment of time, I will be free. I will be You're welcome. So, although speaking of singers, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that Celine Dion was singing in fluent French by the end of the opening ceremony. And I thought, oh man, that's great. Celine Dion is here. And Celine Dion is also another stunning singer. So at least she was there. She more than made up for the stupidity of Imagine being there. So I love hearing Celine Dion. She's got a rich, powerful voice. And something else I really liked was the imagery of this horse rider. They got this woman to wear like the Olympic flag on her back, and they got her on this like prancing horse animatronic on a very thin canoe going forward in the River Seine to make it look as if this rider was trotting on a horse that was running across the water of the River Seine. It's such a cool image to look at. It's very creative, very cool, I will admit. So eventually they get the torch started to go. And something interesting that they've chosen to do this year was to get the Olympic torches to this big torch beacon, obviously, but they've attached it to this hot air balloon that just goes up, and it's just going to hang there. And apparently they've calculated it specifically so that it will come down during the closing ceremony. And somehow it's not going to drift away with the wind, or somehow it's not going to like tumble down and go on fire. I'm just going to say it now. If that parachute falls and something goes on fire, this video is probably going to be awkwardly outdated. Don't say I didn't warn you. Or maybe it will date quite well because prophetic warning, I guess. Anyway, public announcement. I am eating a pork belly Vietnamese sandwich. It's fire! Okay. Yeah, I think that's all my thoughts on the opening ceremony. Like, there were some cultural highlights. The minions were funny. Celine Dion was great. Some of the imagery, like the horse, was quite cool. I was pleased to see Les Miserables being represented. But other than that, a lot of the other stuff, like the opening dance sequence was fine. But a lot of the other stuff in regards to this big fashion party that just went on for an hour, it was just boring, and it didn't feel like it had any relevance to the actual Olympic setting. Like, come on. Like, you got to keep in mind, especially when you compare this opening with what came before, with like the London opening with this very elaborate sequence of showcasing the Industrial Revolution and forging like the Olympic rings, actually visually showcasing the progress of a culture, and how despite the tough turmoils they went through, they managed to achieve these great things. And then there was a contemporary setting of people getting together with a man and a woman like finding each other and then giving each other a kiss. And then you had some bit of cultural identity with Mr. Bean hilariously playing along with Vangelis's Chariots of Fire, as well as the other equally hilarious part of James Bond skydiving with the Queen. Man, no wonder people miss the Queen. The Queen, unlike some of the royals today, actually had the humility to have a good laugh about herself. And I've got to respect that. She did that again with like Paddington Bear. Like, I just got to love the fact that this highly influential public figure is not afraid to have a bit of humor surrounding herself. And I just got to love that. I wish more people had that kind of humility these days. And then the best ceremony of all time would be the Beijing Olympics, where they literally got 2,008 people, literally 2,008 people playing in synchrony, playing the drums in this very big sequence. Obviously, it's just so big. And it's so epic. Just all these people going, ah! It's like the sheer the way they synchronize the drums, like it sounds like thunder, and all these people doing it almost exactly syncing beat for beat in this elaborate dance sequence. The gravitas, just all these people going, whoo, like it's kind of similar to the New Zealand haka, but it's with drums. Ah! It's epic. Like, that is epic. That is what the Olympics should be. It's epic. It brings people together. It brings people to push themselves beyond their limits to achieve the best that they could. That's why I love the Olympics. And the Paris Olympics kind of flopped. Thanks for the verbal copy. You're welcome. And of course, the glory. The glory! Yes. Come on! I suppose I'll be looking out for like the other events like the hockey, the shooting, the swimming, so on and so forth. And God willing, there will not be any cheaters using harmful drugs. We do not want that. Not at all. So anyway, that's all I have to say about the Olympic opening ceremony. I was going to talk about mental well-being because my friend Malika brought that up in her most recent live stream, which I've sent the link to. Are wrestling or boxing going on? Both, presumably. In fact, hold your horses. Let's see. I should probably copy a link to this schedule. Let's see. Boop, boop. There we go. Okay, let's take a look at the schedule. So let's see. In my time, okay, 7:30 badminton. Okay, handball, rowing, shooting, volleyball, equestrian, fencing, hockey. There's a wide variety of sports happening. They've got a wide variety. Wow, there's a lot. There's a lot. And keep in mind that like people are gonna go through all this, and then there's like and it's not even the finals yet. Whew, that's a lot. That is a lot. So needless to say, there's plenty of activities going on throughout the day. Needless to say. All right, the last one of that day would be the surfing women's round. Are they really going to be doing surfing during the nighttime, or is this like pre-recorded in advance? I'd be curious to find out. Well, the schedule's there, right? So anyway, back to mental well-being. That's sick of true. Sick of true. What do you mean by sick of true? I have never heard that. Is that a misspelling? Wait, were you meant to? Oh, I wish I was one of them. I envy the athlete. Oh, right. Okay, right. Blaster Master, whilst you're here talking to me, yeah, misspelling. Yeah, I thought so. I thought so. You want to hear a cool story? You want to hear a really cool story? You know how I mentioned earlier that it would be an honor to even participate in the Olympics, even if you didn't get in first place? What if I told you that back in 2012, I was actually nominated to carry the Olympic torch? Yep, that's true. This guy. I am immortal. I am the greatest. Look at these abs. I am immortal. Yeah. So you might think, wow, Callum, how did you get nominated to carry the Olympic torch? It was you look part, man. I think that's a big deal. Back in my younger days, 2012. Okay, so I'm 26 now, so 2022, so 24. So I would have been 14 back then, right? So when I was around 14 years old, during my youthful days, I used to take part in a hockey club, a field hockey club. And my favorite position in the field hockey club was defense. I will confess, I was quite the sissy when I was younger, but over the years, I've grown much more manly as the years went by, and thankfully, I did manage to like score 1 or 2 goals like in the hockey group, and I got better and better at hockey, especially when it comes to like passing and stuff like that, and I became a great team member. And my favorite position was defense. I've noticed I'm quite a defense-oriented guy. Like whenever I play games like Team Fortress 2, my preferred classes are the defense-based ones. I think I like the idea of like defending a place, whereas the other people are focused on the forefront. Yeah, I like being in that position. Managed to be quite a team player, even participating in a few tournaments in the pouring rain. I got so good at hockey that in my high school days, whereas all the other boys were so obsessed with football, I was one of the few people who was more competent in hockey, because all the rest of those boys were so fixated on football, but they couldn't keep up with me during hockey. I mean, don't get me wrong, they put up a good fight, but they lacked the experience that I had. I mean, there's a bit more methodical skill when it comes to hockey, like the way you pass, the way you use your stick to maneuver around and stuff like that, as well as the need to just keep running with the ball. And apparently I, alongside a few other people at our local hockey club, got a chance to be nominated to carry the Olympic torch. Now, ultimately, I didn't actually carry the Olympic torch, but man, I consider it an honor to even be nominated to carry the Olympic torch. And I remember going to the town with my friend Sam, and we got to the bridge of Inverness, and we saw the Olympic torch itself being carried by one of the participants from the hockey club, and then across the other side of the bridge, and then running to be carried off to somebody else. So, yeah, I hold that passion of the Olympics in my heart, and it is a deep honor to actually be nominated to actually carry the Olympic torch. And I guess that's kept me obligated to keep up the good fitness. Like I can name several friends of mine who are like tougher in regards to the fact that they actually served in the military and other stuff like that. Although I've managed to become much more of a persevering person, especially thanks to my training myself with long distance running. Even to the point where I was able to run the Loch Ness Marathon, as well as to meet a personal tutor during my gym sessions, so that I could get stronger and I could be more effective at like carrying weights and muscle-based exercises and building up these abs. Yeah! Oh yeah, look at him show off the abs online, brother. Yeah, so anyway, I still consider it an honor to even be nominated to carry the Olympic torch. Because the Olympics is just such a big deal. Like, I know people may have preferred to actually carry the Olympic torch or to actually be in the Olympics, but for me, it's an honor to even be nominated, to carry the Olympic torch. Just this piece of legacy, this very symbol of passing on from someone to someone else. And I can actually say that wholeheartedly and truthfully. So the next thing I want to talk about, mental well-being. Well, I suppose I was trying to talk about mental well-being, but I suppose physical exercise certainly contributes to mental well-being. But as my friend Malika pointed out in her live stream, it's important that you expand your network and take the chance to take care of yourself and to get to know other people. And when you do that, you'll find That's it. It's going to be great because at the end of the day, we're made to be communal beings. We're made to be community-based beings. There's no point in closing yourself up being alone. I know I made that mistake several years ago during a particularly depressing period of my life. But it is a mistake to close yourself in. I guarantee you, my life has gotten so much better when you actually open up to people, especially to people who actually care, people who want to actually help you out, and people who can help you to open up your heart. Because a lot of the issues you face can only be solved if you actually fix the heart of the issue rather than just treating the symptoms. Because you only go in circles if you're treating the symptoms. So you have to get to the heart of the issue, like why you do these particular bad things, why you keep obsessing over different things, because you are not rooted in nurture enough. Love is the answer. Love is all you need. As cheesy as it sounds, love is all you need. Yes. Next, we should talk about, some of the trailers that are be coming out. I noticed there's been trailers for a adaptation of Wicked as well as Gladiator 2. I've noticed that recently, just going about online, like just flipping through YouTube on my phone, and then all of a sudden this long advert will come on and say, we wanted to adapt Wicked for so long and stuff like that. And I thought, okay, I'm still a bit iffy on this. But then as the advert went on, he said, we went through all this effort to make the practical effects. If we wanted to create the Land of Oz, we got to actually make it. I just think, wow, they went to that effort to make the Land of Oz. Like, they even went as far as to say, we had to make an entire field of tulips to make this particular scene for this film. And I just think, wow, you went to that length, like literally creating your scenery. That's not really heard of that to that extent in Hollywood anymore. Like, Hollywood tends to use like a lot of green screens, a lot of CGI schluck. So to see this advert that says, no, we actually took the time to make these practical sets, I just think, man, that looks great, but I'm still really skeptical about this musical adaptation of Wicked. Fun fact, I have actually seen the stage musical of Wicked. Basically, what is Wicked? Wicked is basically this alternative perspective take on the Wizard of Oz story, and it's told from the perspective of the Wicked Witch of the West. Basically, it's talking about like her life, like how she was born, her upbringing, her college days, and why exactly she rebelled against the Wizard of Oz. Although something particularly interesting about that story is that even though the story was shedding a sort of sympathetic light on the Wicked Witch of the West, it still didn't excuse her crimes. The story was smart enough to not excuse her of her crimes. I mean, she still kidnaps like a poor girl who did nothing wrong, and she still caused a lot of terror and all that in the Land of Oz. But given the woke insanity of Hollywood lately, and just looking at the particular casting choices, knowing this woke agenda that Hollywood, that a lot of modern Hollywood, not all Hollywood, but a lot of modern Hollywood has, I am very skeptical about the upcoming Wicked adaptation, because I've actually seen the stage adaptation and even listened to the soundtrack, and Idina Menzel and the other cast do a phenomenal job of singing their hearts out for this story. And I'm just really skeptical if this film adaptation will work. But at the same time, I see this advert and it says, well, they clearly had enough passion to at least make these actual physical sets, even an actual physical train Like, that kind of dedication is kind of unheard of these days, yet there it is, practical scenery that they actually took the time to painstakingly build. Um, so, on the one hand, like, it looks like there's people who genuinely care about what they're trying to make, and they genuinely like, but I don't know. I mean, they're probably gonna goof up in regards to paling in comparison to the actual stage adaptation, but we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. Gladiator 2. Why is this film being made? Why does it exist? Now, obviously, like, people might say, "Oh, but look at the spectacle. It's probably just going to be a fun film." Okay, right. But lately, there's been this Amazon Prime show with Anthony Hopkins that says which is called. Oh, wait, what was it called again? I've forgotten what it was called. Hold on a minute. For Those About to Die, I think it was called. Amazon. Those About to Die, Amazon Prime. Yes, that's right. That's what it was. Yes. So there's this show called Those About to Die, which also has similar spectacle to Gladiator 2, and from what I could tell, it actually had a fairly good reception. So that kind of makes Gladiator 2 even more pointless to exist. So now that Those About to Die exists, Gladiator 2 looks even more pointless because Gladiator 2 is just literally repeating the same story from the first one again, from what I've looked up. And the only sense of originality is that it's got Denzel Washington in it. And everybody loves Denzel Washington. I mean, come on, who doesn't love Denzel Washington? Denzel Washington's the man. He is the man for acting. Like, he's one of the acting greats, up there with like Gary Oldman and a few others. Like, Denzel Washington, you are a blessing. And I think people are going to see Gladiator 2 if for nothing else than to see Denzel Washington at this point. Denzel Washington is just so good an actor. He can really uplift a bad film if he was ever in that kind of situation. And I think the same is going to be happening again. We love you, Denzel Washington. We love you. What else are we going to talk about? Yes, speaking of things in a dire state, Ubisoft. I suppose it's very relevant because we were talking about an event that takes place in France, and Ubisoft is a French-based company. I wanted to talk about Ubisoft because, oh boy. Ubisoft has gotten themselves into a lot of trouble lately because they have put their efforts into marketing two games, those being Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws. Even though they're putting their efforts into marketing those particular games and trying to blemish them and trying to make them as fine looking as possible, they're ultimately failing because, good grief, where do I even begin? It's because they're both indoctrinated with like the woke agenda, and we're at a time and place where more and more people are getting more and more fed up with the woke agenda and what it's doing to entertainment. Like, we've reached a point where many social groups are coming together in a unified agreement that the woke agenda is ruining entertainment, because a lot of people these days, they don't care about your politics. They don't care about whose side. They don't care about your politics. Basically, all they care about is to make a good quality story that points to timeless themes and timeless beauty. That's what people are looking for. But the woke agenda is rooted in Marxism, and the woke agenda is so fixated on subverting everything. It's fixated on like bringing representation to folks. Like, I mean, subversion can work in certain contexts of storytelling, and there's nothing wrong with like representation, but these woke people are so obsessed with representation and subverting things that in the name of subversion they ultimately destroy, and in the name of inclusion they ironically exclude others to the point where they actively hate gamers. Like, it's so stupid. It's so absolutely stupid, and more people are getting fed up. In fact, ironically, I watched the video lately saying that the people that get the most backlash from this woke cancel mob, ironically, gets the increased boost in sales. Namely, games like Elden Ring and Stellar Blade. Those games are succeeding, and part of their success is ironically from the hate they got from the woke mob. Like, the woke mob are not even the majority of people. They're just this very loud minority. A very spoiled small minority, from what it would seem. Like, these people who are just so narcissistic, who are so obsessed with self-representation, like it hijacks the storytelling. It's not about creating something immersive for the general public anymore. It's just something to make themselves feel good, just for them. But so it's no wonder their products fail, because it's made for them and not for everybody else. Whereas entertainment is meant to be made for everybody else, because that's how you make money. And so with Star Wars Outlaws, Lucasfilm had been going through a lot of woke schlock lately, and I've already made a live stream and a video review of The Acolyte, which perfectly represents how the woke has completely hijacked this foundation that George Lucas has started. It's Star Wars was founded on concepts regarding the monomyth by Joseph Campbell. I even got the chance to ask Malika Ganje in her live stream, where did she get her concept of the Fey realm from? That was a term she used, Fey realm, and I thought, I don't know any academics that use the term Fey realm. Where did she get that from? She said that Fey realm is a term that she uses to describe her concept of this imaginary realm where you place your fantasies into, but if you spend too long in there, then you're not going to make any actual progress in the real world. She got that concept of the Fey realm mainly from this imaginative, the collective imagination as coined by Joseph Campbell. So Joseph Campbell's collective imagination influenced Malika's concept of the Fey realm. In fact, Malika's Fey realm and Joseph Campbell's collective imagination is pretty much just one and the same, if I'm not mistaken. So where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. Star Wars, yeah. So Star Wars is based on another concept that was set up. Well, actually, Star Wars was based on this concept of the collective imagination. And George Lucas was very much influenced by the monomyth, this, which is basically another way of a form of collective conscious, a form of collective imagination. The monomyth was a concept by Joseph Campbell, which in itself is a form from collective imagination, also coined by Joseph Campbell. And it was from this concept of the monomyth that George Lucas used to create Star Wars. What is the monomyth? Basically, it's Joseph Campbell recognizing reoccurring themes and story beats from all the myths and all the religions around the world throughout different time periods and molding them into one big story. George Lucas took that kind of story and just put it in a space opera. Voila, Star Wars. Like even like the supernatural concept of the Force is highly based on the monomyth concept. So there's many religious aspects that are put into the Force as a concept, and that's why one religious group cannot fully consistently affiliate their religious ideas with the Force, because the Force was meant to be this fictional supernatural concept that is basically an amalgamation of all these different religions like put together. So like the Buddhists can't really be consistent with the Force because there's an encouragement of being active, whereas the Buddhist lifestyle, if I'm not mistaken, encourages inactivity in just accepting things as they are. And if you're someone like a Christian like me, you wouldn't say that the Force is consistently Christian in many ways, because there's other teachings about the Force that involves accepting the universe as it is and finding the balance, like in the Buddhist sense. So it's kind of a strange a combination. It's kind of strange how there's all these contradictions and all these harmonies and contradictions happening at once with this Force concept, and it's used as like a storytelling device for like this conflict of good versus evil. However, the Force as a concept has been criticized internally in the Star Wars lore itself through the character Kreia. Kreia from Knights of the Old Republic 2, she breaks down the concept of the Force in a very thought-provoking manner that I think more people really need to listen to, because it really changes the way you perceive Star Wars. So the monomyth is basically meant to be this culmination of this conflict between good versus evil. George Lucas set it in outer space, and George Lucas was trying to showcase this kind of timeless story about the conflict between good versus evil, and about the hero's journey as symbolized through Luke Skywalker. And there's a few plot twists that go into there, and basically it's the reason why the original trilogy has such a wide appeal is because its structure is so simple, and yet it's so appealing because it's based on a foundation which structurally works. It just works because it structurally worked for all these different cultures for all time. But here comes the woke culture that says, no, we hate these traditions because we perceive these traditions as holding us back from our freedom, even though ironically the woke mob needed those traditions in order to have their so-called freedom in the first place. But they don't realize this. They're so blinded by revolution and dogmatic ideology that they can't even see the hypocrisies of, say, saying women are better than men, even though they say it in a way that makes them ironically sexist towards men, or like elevating like African American folk to the point where they become ironically racist, as indicated by Disney having their hiring practices exposed. Oh yeah, there have been undercover people sneaking into the like modern Disney corps, and they got blatantly exposed for saying, oh yeah, we don't hire white men. And for certain people with dark skin, their skin's not dark enough. Like, wow, that is blatantly racist. Like, wow, they are in big trouble. They are in big trouble. And this kind of ironic ideology has leaked into modern Disney products, especially their Disney Plus content, with Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. they subvert and degenerate the Obi-Wan Kenobi character in a way that doesn't really make sense to his pre-established characteristics in other Star Wars media. And they elevate certain other characters in a way that doesn't make any sense. Like, yes, Princess Leia does have the Force, stuff like that. But at the same time, at that time period, she's a toddler. She should not be capable of doing all this. And like, how have the stormtroopers not caught a freaking toddler already? And there was a character called Reva, who for some reason affiliated herself with the bad guys. And even though she affiliated herself with the bad guys and even chopped a guy's arm off, like a guy's hand off, it seemed like she never really took account for that, despite going through a kind of redemption arc, which is kind of weird. And you also have there were other examples like The Mandalorian season 3, where they have this idea that anyone could be the Mandalorian now. What do you mean anyone could be the Mandalorian now? The whole point of a Mandalorian is someone who comes from the planet Mandalore. What do you mean anyone could be a Mandalorian? There was also the strange double standard in regards to the presentation. And in the Ahsoka show that I saw, like Sabine is a strong female character who pretty much dooms the entire galaxy by unleashing Thrawn, and yet she's never taken account for that, because you must never question women, otherwise you're some kind of misogynistic monster. Okay, whatever. Like, that kind of questionable ideology, and the Acolyte especially showcased that, and now this ideology has shown itself in Star Wars Outlaws, where this very emasculate a very masculine looking woman is basically replacing Han Solo and doing all this adventure stuff in a very generic looking game. The actual game itself, from the demos and demonstrations that have been allowed to showcase, it looks very mediocre. And reviewers have been saying it looks very mediocre, and the AI for the enemies is very basic. So the stealth sequences and other things like that are not very rewarding to play. I mean, AI can be used for a good cause if applied rightly for productive goodness, I believe. So if you're not going to use it for productive goodness, then what are you doing? So Star Wars Outlaws is getting very mediocre scores, and yet they're trying to elevate this female protagonist who's got very jockey kind of jaw. Now, of course, like there's women out there who kind of have that look like that, but the thing is, and this is a common practice in Western gaming these days, they give masculine features to women so that they don't look feminine, even though the models that they worked off with were actually very beautiful feminine people, which is not only kind of an insult to the models, but also doesn't make sense. Especially like Mary Jane in Spider-Man 2 looked drastically different from her appearance in Spider-Man 1, which doesn't really make much sense. Like if this were like a different actress in a live action production, like that would make more sense, because maybe like the other actress was busy, so they had to get someone else. But here it's video games. Like, you have the potential to keep the character design consistent, but they've deliberately masculinized like certain character looks where it doesn't really make much sense for them to have those kind of features. I mean, people with those kind of features do exist, but they kind of force them into the stories, and it's very blatant that they're trying to force them in, because they seem to really hate femininity, even though femininity also has its strengths in regards to nurture and actually looking out for other people. But they hate femininity because they think it's weak, but it's not. Femininity is an awesome thing. I've experienced the strengths of femininity from other genuinely strong woman. And that kind of strength has brought me up when I was in really low periods of my life. So, like, I'm kind of baffled when people say, "Oh, femininity should be brought up." No, it shouldn't. It should be celebrated. Like, this is why, like, like the reason why games like Stellar Blade are selling really well is because, okay, yeah, like some of the costumes, yeah, they are ridiculous, like, but still, like, people have this appeal for very beautiful looking women because I think there's this sense of intimate nurture with that kind of beauty that people are looking for deep down inside. Now, people might critique me and say, "No, they just want to have sex with those people." I mean, sure. I mean, you've got that kind of expectation going on, but deep down inside, every one of us is looking for intimacy. And like sex is just one, sex is just like one form that's meant to lead to deeper intimacy. And intimacy doesn't even have to be a sexual thing. Intimacy can be a very relational thing. Like C.S. Lewis wrote down about various forms of love, like brotherly love, family love, friendship love, like and of course, like Eros being the romantic love. Like people are seeking intimacy of some kind, and women present. There's something very interesting about the design of genuine feminine women. Women have this amazing ability to use their innate empathetic abilities to encourage even the most toughened people to open up their hearts, to really get to the core of certain issues. Like, they were key made for nurture. Like, even the way like their hands were made, like look at my hands. Like, these are clearly manly hands. Like, they're stubs. These are the kind of large hands that have a tricky time playing the Nintendo Switch controllers. But with women's hands, they're much more triangularly shaped. Women's hands are made specifically to interweave in intricate parts, and I'm convinced that women's hands are then symbolically made to interweave into the depths of like people's hearts to actually bring about the core issues and to bring about positive change. So because of this, I'm just baffled by why people would want to discredit that kind of feminine power. Like, why? So here's Star Wars Outlaws, which is once again trying to like tear down femininity and try to make men out of women, and people are saying enough, we've had enough. And you're trying to do this for a game that's disappointingly mediocre anyway, so the sales for Star Wars Outlaws is not going very well. And then you have Assassin's Creed Shadows. Oh boy, where do I start with that? Basically, there's a lot of controversy surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows. People have been waiting for an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan like for years now. People have been wanting this for a long time. People were so hyped saying, "Oh yeah, we're finally going to get the Assassin's Creed game in Japan." But what they got was something that Japanese players are not very fond of, which is very, very ironic. And sorry, I'm concentrating on something else. It's concentrating on something else. I'm concentrating on something else. Sorry, I'm just catching up with some messages. It's hard for me to concentrate. With Assassin's Creed Shadows, there was this controversy surrounding Yasuke. Now, before delving into this topic, I actually took the time to investigate the historical figure of Yasuke myself, and according to sources, he was apparently this samurai who served under somebody else. There was a specific name that came up. According to the Wikipedia article, it says that Yasuke was a man of African origin who served as a samurai in the Japanese to the Japanese daimyo Oda Nobunaga for a period of 15 months. Let's see, during the Sengoku period until Nobunaga's death. There are a few historical documents on Yasuke. From the fragmentary accounts, Yasuke first arrived in Japan in the service of Jesuit Alessandro Villegnago. He was summoned to Nobunaga after Nobunaga wished to say, Right. Right. So, yeah, it says here that Yasuke actually accompanied Nobunaga. And according to sources, like he was affiliated with the Jesuits who were in Japan at the time, and he was given a sword and but now people are very divided on the historical accuracy of certain documents regarding Yasuke. Some people say he was a full-on samurai warrior, others say he wasn't. But there's something very suspicious about the way Assassin's Creed Shadows is trying to portray Yasuke. Like, I understand that the Assassin's Creed franchise was always this historical fiction anyway. Like, I understand that. But the fact that they're taking probably way too many liberties to the point where it doesn't make sense for this historical period, even for the standards of historical fiction. So, firstly, the sources say Yasuke accompanied Nobunaga until his death was present. Afterwards, Yasuke went back to the Jesuits, and there are no records of him afterwards. And yet, this video game is portraying Yasuke as this low, badass armored samurai warrior, teaming up with a female and slaughtering all the men in Japan by himself, which is such a ridiculous concept when you actually think about it logically. Like, think about it. That specific time period, an African man just wandering about in samurai armor, the kind of armor that should only be used during wartime, mind you, just going about in public, somehow not being noticed that much, and just slaughtering these like samurai, these Japanese people in broad daylight. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, how do people not pay attention to that kind of thing? And not to mention, it says in that whatever historical documents we could find that he was accompanying Nobunaga. Where's Nobunaga? Like, yes, the sources clearly indicate, wherever you think of them, Yasuke accompanied Nobunaga until his death. And yet in the Assassin's Creed Shadows game, Yasuke is not accompanying Nobunaga. He's by himself. And with another female character. Like, I will admit, the concept of playing between two different game styles is pretty cool to me. Like, I've always liked video games where you get a variety of characters to play as, and I was rather fond of like the King Kong game where one character you play as is having a rougher time taking on enemies, and the other one is just mowing them down. There seems to be something similar going on here with the female character being more stealth oriented, and then the male character being more overt combat oriented. Like, I mean, that's all good and dandy, but it's all, I mean, I'm sure gameplay wise, this game will be fine, but presentation wise, it's utterly ridiculous. Yasuke should be accompanying Nobunaga, and just the concept of this specific time period of this African man going up to Japanese people and just slaughtering them left and right without many people noticing him, like, it's ridiculous. And what's ironic is that only now I've been hearing that the game Ghost of Tsushima got a lot of accusations of being culturally inappropriate, even though people love Ghost of Tsushima, and yet the woke crowd are simping and applauding Assassin's Creed Shadows, and yet that's getting into a lot of trouble. That is such hypocrisy. By the way, I haven't made it overt in this channel, but I have indeed played Ghost of Tsushima. It's a pretty awesome game. In fact, I'm convinced that Ghost of Tsushima is the Assassin's Creed Japan game that Assassin's Creed Shadows will never be. Yeah, I'm putting it out there because Ghost of Tsushima gets a lot of Japan just right. And the thing about the whole armor thing, that's optional in the single player campaign. And you can put the armor on as an option, and then it will alert enemies of your current stance, whether they're in fear or ready to fight. But whereas in Assassin's Creed Shadows, it looks as if you're just going around in the armor and people take no notice. That's not how ancient Japan works. And then I suppose even in like the multiplayer matches, people are always in their armor because they're always in the constant fight. What else is there to say about Assassin's Creed Shadows? Oh yeah, there's also these controversies that the Ubisoft team had stolen these this Japanese clan symbol without the Japanese people noticing. There was also another controversy, like in regards to some Japanese historians saying Yasuke was 100% a samurai, even though said historian is part of the Japanese Communist Party. Yeah. Communist Party. You know, communists. Communists, a group who are specifically known for subverting everything. But wait, if communists subvert everything, including history, why should we trust them on anything? If they're just going to subvert anything to like suit their own purposes. Like, that is just so stupid. And there was another controversy regarding them having the sword, which was basically the same as Zoro's sword from One Piece. What was his name? Roronoa Zoro. That's what his name was. Roronoa's... I'm going to have to pronounce that again. Assassin's Creed Shadows has Roronoa Zoro's... No, that's not how you pronounce it. Roronoa Zoro's sword is in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, this would be okay if this was a deliberate fun Easter egg that they were putting in there, but apparently they're not even acknowledging that. And so because of all these controversies, they're saying, oh, we're sorry, please buy our game. Nope, too late. Because people are perceiving these apologies as not sincere and false. So, I'm inclined to like forgive all these people anyway. But even still, Ubisoft is in a very sticky situation, and it doesn't look like they're going to get out of it anytime soon. So yeah, just wanted to get that out there about Ubisoft. They are suffering, and well, so much for claiming that we should get used to not owning any of your games. All right, I guess we're not going to own any of your games because we're not even going to bother buying your digital games in the first place because they're suffering so poorly. Get used to not having customers. How about that, Ubisoft? What else has been going on here? Last thing I should mention about this video, prior thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. This film's been going around the rounds lately, and I'm probably considering going to see it when I get up because there's not much else going on Saturday, at least for me anyway. I'm probably just going to see it once just to see what the fuss is all about. Because there's a lot going on with that movie. And I know my friend Brooks Skellinghouse, aka Squid Bear, has recently seen it. In fact, he's most recently put up a review on Letterboxd, giving it a 2.5 out of 5-star rating, like the perfect midway rating, claiming playing the MCU video game in free play with Fox Universe DLC. Glorified fan service. The Batman vs. Superman of Marvel, but is a great send-off to 20th Century Fox. Yeah, that's the vibe I've been getting, and the Critical Drinker made a non-spoiler review of this movie, saying that it actually acknowledges the fact that Phase 4 of the MCU had been failing tremendously hard. Just put the link to my friend's review there. So yeah, it's not looking good for Marvel. And this film probably did not save the MCU. In fact, it's practically made fun of it, and rightly so, because the MCU Phase 4 had been suffering a lot from, again, the woke mentality, which really ruined the movies. But Ryan Reynolds fought tooth and nail to get the kind of quality film he wanted. But apparently, according to Critical Drinker, there were some lines that not even Deadpool was willing to cross. So it does call out the MCU Phase 4 for being rubbish, but not anything else regarding like the woke crowd. But hey, at least someone in Hollywood was willing to make fun of the MCU and call out people for their lackluster quality. That should at least get people to think. So I haven't seen the film yet, so I'll need to see it for myself to be honest. And it's getting super late for me now, so I guess I'll just wrap things up. Is there anything else anybody else wants to say before I head off? Speak now, forever hold your please. Forever hold your peas. Forever hold in your fleas. Pardon me. Would you please? I don't think there's anything else much more to be said. Gosh darn, I really need to catch up with the Olympics. Looking forward to that. All right. That should probably be all for now. Also, I'll need to catch up with Daredevil. Thank you all so much for watching. And if there's anything you want to comment on this video, please feel free to comment down. I look forward to a good conversation. Thank you, Blaster Master, for bothering to join the live stream and for agreeing with me that John Lennon's Imagine song should not be the national anthem of the Olympics. Instead, it should be Whitney Houston's One Moment in Time. Whitney Houston's One Moment in Time should be the definitive national anthem for the Olympics. Full stop, period. Ending the stream on that note. There's no argument. Scott's Thinker signing out.